Okay, so somewhere right now, someone's grandma is soaking almonds overnight. And somewhere else, someone's biting straight into a dry, crunchy handful from the bag. And both of them think the other person is doing it wrong. So who's actually right? Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Nuts are basically seeds playing dead. And seeds have one evolutionary job: survive being eaten. Which means every nut you've ever snacked on has been quietly fighting back the entire time. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're never going to look at a handful of almonds the same way again.
Segment 1. The plant's revenge plan.
Let's start with why this whole debate even exists. A nut isn't food. Not really. Not to the plant. To the plant, it's a baby tree wrapped in a survival kit. And that kit comes loaded with defense chemicals, mainly something called phytic acid, plus a bunch of enzyme inhibitors. Think of phytic acid like a do not disturb sign the seed hangs on its own nutrients. It binds up minerals, iron, zinc, calcium, magnesium, and basically locks them in a vault so nothing digesting the seed can access them. From the plant's point of view, that's genius. It means if some hungry animal eats the seed and poops it out somewhere else, the minerals are still intact, waiting for the right moment, water, to unlock everything and let the seed actually sprout. From your point of view, you're the hungry animal, and you're eating a snack that's basically designed to give you less nutrition than it looks like it has. That enzyme inhibitor part matters too. Those compounds are there specifically to jam up digestive enzymes, so nothing can efficiently break the seed down. It's not that nuts are bad for you. It's that raw nuts are built like a locked safe, and you're trying to eat the safe.
What soaking actually does.
So what happens when you dunk that almond in water for 8 to 12 hours? You're basically tricking the seed. Water is the one signal in nature that means conditions are good, time to grow. So the seed starts flipping switches it thinks it needs for germination. And one of the first things it does is start breaking down its own phytic acid, using an enzyme called phytase to free up those minerals for the sprouting process. You didn't have to do any of that work. The nut does it to itself. You just gave it the trigger. At the same time, soaking softens the outer layer, deactivates a chunk of those enzyme inhibitors, and gets rid of some of the tannins that give raw nuts that slightly bitter, chalky aftertaste. You know the one. And here's the part that actually matters for your body. With phytic acid reduced, more of the iron, zinc, and magnesium in that nut becomes bioavailable, meaning your gut can actually absorb it instead of it just passing through. Some research also suggests soaking can make the proteins in nuts a bit easier to digest, since your pre-softening structures your stomach would otherwise have to break down from scratch. Basically, soaking doesn't add nutrition. It unlocks nutrition that was already sitting there behind a wall.
Okay, so is raw actually bad? Now, before you go dump your entire pantry into a bowl of water, let's slow down. Because the internet loves to turn better into mandatory, and that's not how this works. Phytic acid isn't some evil toxin. In moderate amounts, some studies actually link it to potential antioxidant properties, and even some anti-cancer research interest. This compound is not purely a villain. The real issue only shows up if nuts and seeds are like the dominant part of your diet, day after day, with very little variety. That's when mineral absorption could meaningfully take a hit over time. If you're eating a normal, varied diet with a handful of almonds a few times a week, your body's honestly fine. You're not wasting away from unabsorbed zinc because you ate raw cashews on a Tuesday. So soaking isn't correcting a mistake, it's optimizing something that was already okay to begin with. The stuff nobody talks about: texture, flavor, and enzymes. Here's where it gets interesting for anyone who actually cooks or bakes with nuts. Soaked nuts are softer, which matters if you're blending them into nut milk, a cashew cream sauce, or a raw dessert base. Dry almonds fight your blender. Soaked almonds surrender immediately. That's why practically every soak your cashews first recipe exists. It's not a wellness ritual, it's a texture hack. But, and this is the trade-off nobody mentions, soaking also kills that satisfying structural crunch. If you're snacking, if you want that audible bite, soaked nuts are a soggy disappointment. You basically have to dehydrate them afterward to get crunch back, which is a whole extra step most people skip. There's also a flavor shift. Raw, unsoaked nuts tend to have a sharper, slightly bitter, more concentrated flavor from those tannins we mentioned. Soaked nuts taste noticeably milder, sometimes almost sweeter, which is why soaked almond milk tastes cleaner than what you'd get blending dry almonds straight up. So this isn't really a winner versus loser debate. It's a what are you actually making debate. Not all nuts play by the same rules. Here's the twist most videos on this topic skip completely. Soaking isn't a one-size-fits-all move. Different nuts and seeds are hiding completely different amounts of defense chemistry. So the should I soak this answer actually changes nut by nut. Almonds and walnuts are relatively high in phytic acid and tannins, so they're the classic soaking candidates. This is why almost every traditional recipe that soaks nuts starts with these two. Cashews are a weird case. They're lower in phytic acid than almonds, so soaking them isn't really about unlocking nutrition at all. It's almost entirely a texture move, because raw cashews are already soft enough to digest fine, but soaking turns them into that ultra-blendable creamy base you see in vegan cheese and sauces. Brazil nuts and pistachios sit somewhere in the middle. Soaking helps a bit, but the payoff is smaller, so most people don't bother. Peanuts are actually a legume, not a true nut, and they carry their own separate set of compounds, which is part of why peanuts get soaked or sprouted in some cuisines specifically to reduce certain anti-nutrients before cooking. And then there's seeds, sesame, sunflower, pumpkin, which often have even more concentrated phytic acid than nuts, gram for gram, which is why a lot of traditional food cultures soak or sprout seeds as a default, not an optional extra. So next time someone tells you, just soak your nuts, the honest answer is, which nuts? And for what? Because a cashew and an almond are not fighting the same battle. So, soaked or unsoaked? Here's the honest answer. If you're snacking on a handful of nuts as a quick bite, unsoaked is completely fine. You're not poisoning yourself, you're just eating a slightly locked version of the nutrition. And for casual, varied eating, that's a non-issue. If you're making nut milk, cashew cream, soaked nut energy balls, or anything where digestibility, mineral absorption, or smooth texture actually matters, soak them. You're not being extra. You're doing exactly what that recipe format was designed around. And if you eat nuts as a genuinely huge chunk of your daily diet, soaking is worth building into a habit, purely for the mineral absorption upside over time. The nut was never trying to be your enemy. It was just trying to become a tree. You just have to decide whether you're going to let it or eat it exactly as it is.